Live. Hi, hello everybody, welcome back to the McStackerson discussion round. Today it's me, myself, McStackerson, and DA.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Not too bad.
So, second week of the new year, we got new cosmetics, and we got the tank topic discussions going on right now. For anyone that doesn't keep up to McStackerson news, every month or so they do a new dev discussion topic. This is dev discussion topic number 47. It's about tanks. And with the dev discussion, or like whatever kind of discussion's going on at the time, they also do an office hours to go along with it, which is like a community-based thing. They bring a whole bunch of people into the they ask people to come into the Discord, and then we just talk about it. Like, it's not like a Q&A thing. People aren't asking questions. We as the community are giving feedback. They're asking us the questions, and we give feedback based on those topics. If you can't participate in those, I 100% tell people go to the forums, have your voices heard, type thing. And then yeah, we also got the asterisk. We also got January's cosmetics, which I think we're going to start off with, just so we can start off with that and then move up to the tank discussion.
Sounds good to me.
Alright, this month's cosmetic pack is called the Featherstone Royal Expeditions. Just going over the set, going down the list as we usually do. The accessory set, what do you guys think about it?
The backpack?
Yeah.
I'm not really a backpack person, but it looks nice pack. My usual. Not my thing, but good looking.
I'm not gonna read the lore this month because I don't think there's like anything. Like last month, there was some juicy bits of lore that I think, and I think we want to kind of move past the cosmetics just to get to the tank topic. So that's kind of like. Go ahead.
All right, done it. I was just gonna say, I think this is the best pack that they've had in a while. The dragon carrying the carriage is awesome. The backpack is awesome. The spiders are pretty cool. I think this is a really good pack. And you know, me personally, I'm just waiting to see what freeholds. Okay, the same thing we've always talked about.
We will get to that when we get to the free. I'm glad you brought that up. We will get to that, and that's also part of the discussion I want to have with you guys. But yeah, just moving through the things. What do you think about the backpack itself, DA?
I mean, I think the backpack looks cool. I kind of like the backpack idea that Intrepid is going with. I just kind of need to know more about it, because all we've heard is just like, you're gonna be able to equip the backpack and you'll be able to walk around with that. And I mean, what is the point of the backpack? Is it just?
It's like, all right. So like, here's the thing, and this is why I bring up with this is like, so they've explained like on the tool belt, like on your tool belt and on your backpack and stuff like that, it'll show like things like things you're carrying. So, like, if you're carrying around, if you have potions on your hotbar, you'll see potions on your belt. And like, a whole bunch of other stuff. They've come out with potion cosmetics. So, like, it disguises your... I'm going to turn the music off.
Oh, they provide personal inventory space. The higher level of the backpack, the greater the inventory space. Different backpack types cater to different activities. Gatherers backpacks are intended to carry gatherables. Adventurers backpacks are intended to carry consumables and items. So it looks like
It has
an extension.
Yeah,
like your inventory.
yeah. It's basically like, hey, put on a better backpack and you get more inventory slots, kind of thing. And it's something similar to what Guild Wars 2 does, and what um like it's a lot of games do the restricted inventory, but generally most games do it to where like you have to pay for you have to pay for an expansion slot. Steven says he doesn't want that. He considers that it's pay to convenience, so therefore it's pay to win. I have the same mindset. So like you have it to where like you have like a kind of Guild Wars 2 system where like your crafters or your leather workers can kind of like make backpacks that increase your slots, kind of thing. You see a very similar thing inside New World as well, but their backpacks have to do more with weight than it does actual inventory slots.
Yeah.
A couple games have done that. With this, you already have like showing some things on the side, so I don't think you're gonna have it to where like I'm carrying around my great sword, my great sword in my backpack, and it's showing on my I think your equipped weapon's gonna probably show up on that. It'll be interesting to see like how the bigger weapons kind of if they kind of clip through the backpack and stuff like that. I don't. It's understandable if it does that, but I don't think so. I think as little clipping as possible, people will enjoy that. It's a good backpack. The artwork on here shows a lot of detail. I do believe we will see just as much detail, if not even more, when it finally comes to a 3D render. You'll be able to see like the actual material it's made out of and shit like that. Moving downwards to the drill spiderling. It's an adorable it's an adorable little spider with a kind of stone scorpion tail. There's this little YouTube video, there's this little internet video of this little baby spider that like, it's a little child that does the voice acting for it, but like it's a little adorable spider that like just goes around and fucking does cute things, and this reminds me of that.
Definitely seems very inspired. I forgot what that is. It Lucas the spider?
Lucas the spider. That's exactly it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I thought of when I saw it, and I think this works really well when we get to the mount. I have some things, but I think this turned out really.
Do you guys like what kind of aesthetic do you like for your mount, for your pets? Do you like the cuter kind of pets? Do you like cuter kind of pets following you, or kind of goofy pets? Do you like cooler pets? You guys kind of edgelords?
The pets follow me around, and I literally forget they exist until I'm like, what is that fucking following me around? Like, I don't really ever look at my pet.
Some people hide that. Some games like have it to where like the pet. Sometimes games have it where the pet loots for you, and they like people turn off the the games that I do have that, they have it to where like you can turn off the pet showing up. Like it'll still be there to looting for you and doing its job, but you can still turn off. So a lot of games where like you can just turn off the mini like the cosmetic pet, or like the loot pet, and just not forget about it. So you're in the category of you don't care about pets. What about you, Stackerson?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of pets, but like I feel like they never really go with the character's aesthetic. They kind of just like are this like little thing. I don't think it matters if they're cute or edgy or anything.
They just stand out, right? It's just there, like.
They're just like this other thing that's like usually floating next to me. Maybe if the pet was like more like part of my character, like sat on my shoulder or something like that, maybe I like him more. But I'm not really a big pet person at the moment.
Well, all right. So based off what Stackerson just said, would either you like it more if like pets did kind of like sit on your shoulder, like you had like a little monkey, or you had like a fox that sat on your shoulder, or a parrot, like a pirate? I think a bunch of people that like to role play as pirates in these kinds of games, inside MMOs, like the pirate, the whole aesthetic, especially ones that have naval combat like Ash's Creation is wanting to have. I think people would really enjoy that. Or maybe a dog that like when it follows you around like normal, but like when you're standing still, it's not just randomly walking around. It's like an obedient dog that sits down, like stands next to you.
Yeah, I would prefer that. Like, if you have a snake, if it was maybe coiled around your neck, stuff like that. I know that's a pain in the ass for animators, and the clipping would be hell once you start tying gear in that. So I completely understand. Like, if you don't do it, no, it's probably not going to be a thing. But I would.
What about you, DA?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm yawning. I haven't had much sleep. I don't know. I don't think there's anything that they could do to like make me have more interest in pets just because,
You're just not interested in
I'm just
pets?
not interested in the pets, man.
You're not interested in like the whole cosmetic thing either. You're like design give me a cool set and then I'm good for a long time kind of thing. You're not like like an in-game kind of fashion wars person, are you?
Yeah.
Cool set, big sword, good to go.
Cool. That's exactly the type of person DA is. Cool set, big sword, good to go. All right. The mount, the mature drill spider, the adult version, the grown up version of the cute little pet we got last. I've been waiting for a scorpion / spider pet to come around, and now we got kind of a mix of both. What do you guys think about the mount?
For me, it didn't turn out as good as the little Lucas spider. It just kind of looks like they're trying to combine a scorpion and a spider, and it doesn't seem very. I don't know what they could have done differently. Like, I get it, but me, it's not very interesting to me.
Would you have preferred if they would have just been a spider or gone in one direction instead of trying to mix them both?
I like them trying to mix, and I like the attempt at like mixing it with the stones. I think there's something there. It just like this feels like bare minimum to get like a spider with a scorpion tail silhouette with stones. Like, I don't know. I feel like they could have done something more with it. I don't know. It just seems very like bare bonesy to me.
Would you? I feel that way on Small and Cosmetics as well. Would you have preferred if they would have done more with the stones, like it's more than just on the back of the spider? If it's more incorporated in the rest of the spider, like you see stones on the legs and stuff like that.
I think that's what I want, or I think that would be a direction I would like. But yeah.
What about
something
you, D?
more to it.
What about you, DA?
I mean, it looks good. I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. It's the best. Like I said earlier, it's probably the best looking pack that we've had to date, or since Margaret stopped giving like influence to influencing the way the pack looks and whatnot. I say influencing because like I know some people like to say like she designed the pack, but it's not.
I didn't know she stopped doing that.
Yeah, she still does it.
She did she stopped for like quite a while, and we had some. I mean, personally, I think we had some of the worst cosmetics ever. But I mean,
is this one of hers? I guess
yes.
The costume definitely reminds me of some of the things we've seen from her.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not really. I've never really been a big cosmetics guy. Give me a fucking. I get one cool looking armor. I put it on and I wear that for the entirety of me playing the game.
In terms of a mount, what do you in a game? What do you see your character riding on?
A group mount so that I can do other stuff.
I hear you on that, but like in terms of like if you like walking around in the world, like you're like that internet edgelord like one set I'm good forever kind of thing. What do you see your pet as? Not attributing like stats, not like oh, this is the fastest mount, this is the one with the most health, whatever the fucking best pet is. What do you see? You see yourself riding around on like a giant dinosaur, a dragon, a fucking unicorn?
honestly, bro, they how do I put it? Um, I I think now that I think about it, Um, I think I switch mounts more than I do cosmetics because, like, usually when I'm doing something with a mount, I'm just like, I don't, I just hit one of the ones in my inventory and call it a day.
Yeah. Generally, like games have tier. A lot of the games we played recently in recent years have like tiers to the mount, so you generally don't get to like. There's not a whole lot of like I'm picking the mount that I want my character to ride. There's generally a best in slot mount, and the best in slot mount generally are like you have the lower tier mounts which don't look as great, and then you have the higher tier mounts that are like these look bigger badass. So you don't really get that like that choice in a game either. That Ashes is wanting you to have. I think I'm with Stackerson. I think I would have preferred them. I think I would prefer more with this. It is kind of like it's a furry spot. It's a big furry spider with golden eyes that has some stones around it. A little bit more in terms of like like more incorporation of the stones into the spider. Would have done more for me, but I do enjoy it. The armor. Does this tickle your inner edgelord, DA? Is this one of the armor sets you think you would wear all the time?
Absolutely not. Nothing beats that March 2020 cosmetic set.
The Face of Sorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Stackerson? You see yourself wearing this set?
No, it's not my style, but I like it. I think it looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. It's not my style, but
like a lot of the cosmetics we've had in a while kind of stuck too closely to the character's silhouette, which I don't really like. This definitely like completely changes the silhouette to me, and I like that.
I think DA said it. The last few we've had for a while have not struck with people as much. People have been like you hear all the time like, hey, you got an Alpha 2 pack, and people were like, nah, I'm waiting for a cosmetic pack I like. And this one is one of the better, like DA said, this is one of the better ones we've had in a while. This one is either kind of like, I could definitely see a magic user wearing these, but I think they're more like an RP set. Something you'd see people more so wearing around in town kind of thing.
I get that vibe. Like the royal, fancy garbs kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. The caravan. I have some things to say about the caravan, but what do you guys think about it?
So like, I think the dragon is cool. I think it's probably a little bit big. My thing with the thing and goes back to I think the caravan things are cool. Carts are cool. The skins for them, but that's just one of those things that we need more information on it. Like, how does a personal cart work? Like, is it you know, the kind I guess we won't really get that information until we actually get our hands on the game itself. But just like the personal cart system, like I imagine, hundreds of people all moving in a bunch of like different looking carts and things like that. And I think about the potential screen clutter from the millions of different cosmetics and ants and dragons and all this stuff jumping around. So um, overall, like the cosmetic, but it's again for me personally, it's just one of those things that I want more information on.
We definitely need more information on how the like we hear like the caravanseer was in a thing inside Alpha 1. It didn't really like work 100%, but we did get some caravans to between nodes and stuff like that. I would like to see it in a more working position, and more about like the caravans and the naval caravans and like in Alpha 2. Before I continue on with that line of thought, like Stackers, what are your thoughts about it?
I like it. I mean, I really like that dragon that's from like what last fall or fall
It is last fall.
2021. I like that dragon. It's a good looking dragon. They kind of changed it up with the stones. It looks neat. Don't care too much for the carriage itself. Um, so I guess it's okay.
No, I
It's
guess
good
you're.
looking though.
I guess you're right. It would be 2021, November 2021. How do you feel about the fact? I said, bring up the dragon. How do you feel about the fact that like this basically is just a reskin of a dragon we've already gotten from another cosmetic pack?
I'm fine with that. Like, it makes sense. Like like create like visual variety in the game that you want to be efficient and like reuse stuff. So like changing it up a little bit like this makes sense to me. Like I'm not gonna. Yeah.
So just arguing for argument's sake, there's an argument here that like I like yes, change using the same kind of like similar assets and using the same skeleton is a thing, but this is you've basically taken like the kind of fall oranges and reds from the previous one and basically just turned it white and red. It's basically it's almost the exact same thing, same dragon, but it's white and red and has a few of the stones floating down its back.
I mean, I guess to me the only thing I would say is maybe they could do something with the wings to make it look less like the fall dragon. But besides that, I think it looks perfect.
DAs, you have any opinions on the reused assets? Yeah,
I might fall asleep.
he might have fallen asleep, but he might just be taking a piss or something. So what's your opinion on dragons? Dragons being used as like to pull a cart. What?
You said he's talking.
Oh, I can't hear you, DA. We can't hear you, DA. You want quiet. DA is having technical difficulties. I see your thing lighting up, but I don't hear you. Popped out. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. I think Discord.
You think Discord what?
Can you?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, Discord's not showing me light up. So I was just a little confused. Acting a little wonky. I don't really care about the reskin, bro. At this point at this stage in development,
You just want like the game.
Yeah.
You don't really care about the cosmetics. So what? In terms of like dragons, what are your guys' opinions on like dragons being used? Do you like the fantasy of like dragons, this big epic thing? Like are they intelligent? Like are they intelligent beings to you? Like this big epic boss? Like are they forces of nature? Are they something to be used as a boss? Or are you okay with people riding around on them as mounts? Are you okay with people using them as to pull their carts and stuff like that? Like I'm okay with them being able to used to pull carts, but at the same time, I'm also like more into the dragon lore and I like the different kinds of varieties of dragons, but I'm also of the opinion that like right now seeing this is like if you have too much of something, you kind of also kind of water it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. I kind of feel like I think they're trying to position these things as being not quite dragons. They're drakes.
They're called drakes, yes.
I feel like this is if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck kind of situation. It's a dragon, and dragons were kind of are kind of supposed to be these like epic things that only certain people can get, and having these like smaller versions. I do agree, kind of like waters down the whole mystique of them.
So Now, this is a thing that's like it depends on your source of lore, like your fantasy, your preferred fantasy, and stuff like that. But in most writings and stuff like that, a drake is either considered a subspecies of dragon, or similar to a worm or a wormling, or like like all these other things, or it's or it's an age cycle of a dragon, where a drake is like a younger, like a young, almost adolescent dragon. Which I could kind of see them doing with this. Like, hey, this is like this is like an adolescent dragon because it's so small. But traditionally, drakes don't have wings. Drakes are like more of a Terran style dragon, to where like they only have they haven't grown their wings yet. They're just yeah, they haven't. If it's an age cycle thing, they haven't grown their wings yet. Or if it's a subspecies of dragon, they're a Terran style dragon, where like they don't have wings. They're purely ground based subspecies.
I'm just saying that. I feel like I would like this a lot more if they just took the wings.
Took the wings off and made it.
The wings. Maybe like put some weird rocky things in its place, that did not look like wings, but were like something to contribute to the body of the dragon, and have it be like the subspecies that just doesn't fly. I feel like that differentiates it enough by removing the wings. It's just kind of a big lizard at that point, which I like big lizards. So.
What about you, DA?
I mean, it's just another cosmetic to me, man.
I'm not talking about the cosmetic itself. I'm talking about the use of dragons.
Oh, I do wish I shouldn't say wish. I do hope that they don't go too over on the use of dragons, just because dragons are kind of like this mythical, like, mystic beast. But like, if everybody has a dragon, it's just like, well, like, that doesn't really feel, special.
It doesn't feel like that gigantic, epic monster that you envision when you see dragons. Everyone's riding around, like everyone has a dragon gliding creature, or if a dragon, or like I feel like having a dragon mount is a different thing comparatively to having a dragon pulling a fucking car, pulling a being relegated to like what you consider a lesser creature, being pulling a caravan or a coach. Riding a dragon is like, you're a dragon knight, you're a dragon rider. Like, there are stories of like epic people, epic knights and heroes riding around on dragons, whereas this is a dragon pulling a cart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from what I'm taking away from you, you're of that same opinion of like, if you overuse dragons, it just kind of waters down the epicness of dragons.
Yeah.
I don't think the fact that it's being relegated to pulling a cart diminishes the fact that it's kind of like increasing the, I don't want to say number of dragons we're going to be seeing. So
part of the description here, and the fact that the aesthetic of the thing, and the fact that they chose to use a dragon, suggest that maybe we have another like you could change your caravan. We know we can augment caravans. You can build them of different kinds of woods and stuff like this. The cosmetic has nothing to do with this. But the idea of a gliding or hovering of a gliding caravan, like you can take your caravan and jump off of a mountaintop and glide down with your caravan. How do you feel about the idea of a almost kind of a new classification of caravan being almost introduced here?
I'd have to play the game to make a judgment. It comes down to like the trade-offs and how that actually changes caravan gameplay. If it's one of those things where like having the hover caravan is just advantageous and everyone goes for hover caravan, then that'd probably be shit. But like if it's something where it's like, if you live in this zone and there's this like a few routes that could really make use of the hover caravan, and it's like a situational choice, then yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, how do you feel about the gliding caravan?
I thought the mounts were the only thing that glides, not the actual caravan itself.
100%. That's the only thing that's been confirmed. But judging based on the design of the caravan and how the description calls it a hover ballast,
So the carriage hovers.
the carriage hovers as well. So like almost based off of the information we have here, you could almost suggest that the idea of a gliding caravan is a possibility in game.
I mean, it is just saying that it just allows it to float a few feet above the ground. So it doesn't necessarily say that it slows down falling. So it could be like any kind of anti-grav situation where like it doesn't matter if you're like you can't just drop an anti-grav thing from like high up and it's going to slow fall. It's just going to fucking smash in the ground.
100.
If it normally floats.
100%. But I'm also basing this off the fact that they use their winged, almost flying flying creature as the thing that pulls it.
Yeah, I'm with you on.
So, and this is purely speculation. Like I said, nothing's been confirmed or denied on this. Like we don't even have anything. Like no one's, I don't think anyone's asked this question. But like, yeah, based on the information here, how do you feel about a gliding caravan? Like a caravan you could take, that you could like it's probably, it might be decked out differently. Like you've chosen to give it the gliding aspect, but it's like it's made of weaker material, so it takes damage easier or something like that. But like the idea of you being able to jump off of a high place and on not just a gliding mount, but a gliding caravan, and it glides with you downwards. It's a gliding caravan. Being able to like go, like maybe cut travel time down because you're gliding over terrain, or you chose to go up a high area and jump down off of it, or yeah, just like the all the terrain stuff that would be there because of a hovering / gliding caravan.
Maybe you're in like a mountain node. You can glide down to some other node.
Yeah. That
something wrong run in X parsecs.
That little theory craft your fancy, DA? I heard something.
Yeah. I think Discord's being rude to him again.
You're glowing a little bit. Discord's just being rude. He came on to support the homies, and it just wants to be mean to him.
That's good, man.
Hello?
Testing? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, something weird, man. I'm not sure why it keeps cutting out. But no, I think it's cool. I think it's fine. The theory crafting is fine. I think I don't know. Gliding caravans would be cool, but what does that do for like the chase, right? As long as it's just something like you can just glide down a mountain, I don't think it's really too much of a problem. Most people are going to have their gliding mounts, or like something that they can kind of like the gliders that we've seen in Arcade, right? Just something akin to that, where you can just jump and pop your mount to glide down.
That's for the chase, but like if you're trying to cut somebody off, so theorycraft wise, like say you're trying to cut somebody off from the past, and this is like a road that people that's traveled frequently by caravans. It's like the fastest route to the next node. So you lay an ambush there. Someone's like, I know that this is a well-traveled road. There's probably bandits here. To avoid that, or like they've gotten some intel, like you said, some scouts ahead, kind of thing. So like now you know that there's an ambush waiting for you there. So you've gone up to a high place and you've jumped off there and glided over the ambush. It's not like they were chasing you. It's not like they can follow you on a gliding mount.
Well, they should be able to.
Well, they would have to go to a high place as well. They can't just jump. They can't just jump on gliding mounts and then jump up and fly up to the same height you were. They have to go to another high place.
You're going to end up down.
Yeah.
So if they're below you, they just need to.
They can look up and follow your direction of flight path.
You should be stuck. You should be stuck on a trajectory. So there should be that disadvantage of. And ideally, it'd be nice if those ground mounts were like a little faster than gliding. So I would hope that would at least be the risk, where you are making yourself very visible and projecting exactly where you're going to be. So anyone who looks up in the air and sees you can just fucking fly their butts over to where they know you're going to land and be ready for you.
This is true. This is very true. The other idea for that is like people like he would probably also train people to look up in the air, because like a lot of time people don't like look up in their MMOs because they don't have to worry about they don't have to worry about flying creatures coming down on them. They don't have to worry about like they're looking in front of them. They're like, hey, this is everything that I have to worry about is on the ground. DA?
Sorry, what was that? I'm trying to fix my mic. Could you repeat the question?
It wasn't a question. It was more so on the continuation on the gliding theory craftiness.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll see it when we get into the game. I think it's gonna be cool. I was one of my favorite parts of Arcade, outside of like Naval, was being able to just kind of like jump off a cliff and kind of glide or down. I think one of the things when it comes to caravans, if you're going to allow caravans to kind of do that glide thing, or like just send it off the edge of a mountain, there needs to be some like falls damage associated, right? Like if you don't have enough glide in you to make that jump, or it's just a huge jump, your caravan should take some damage.
Just crash and burn.
Yeah.
Like you have a limited amount of flight time because you're pulling a caravan, or like you're like it's almost like a stamina gauge or something like that for the mount.
Yeah.
I could follow that. I could definitely see that being a balancing thing.
Yep.
Move on to the freehold, the Royal Featherstone Warehouse. I find this almost kind of boring. It's something similar to the Orc Swamp building that we got a while back. This is literally just the Elven freehold building that we've seen inside APOC and in Alpha 1, but it's and we've seen them design over the years, but you've added some red to it.
It's one of those ones where I kind of agree with you, but I feel like looking at it, you get that in game, and it's just going to look awesome. And probably like the interior is probably going to be pretty cool too. So, like, there's a few houses that are like it, but like that is just that is like one of the bigger, fancier, like hoity-toity looking buildings we have.
This has been a topic, the way that people it's been happening more. We had this on topic on the discussion for a long time now. I've brought it up, and people have been becoming more and more bringing it up more and more lately, of the fact that like they don't put a classification or label on these cosmetic skins. So it says it's a warehouse. It's not like a house or something like that. So like we like the topic of the cosmetic packs and them not giving clarification, like the freehold skins, not a like they don't exactly say what the fuck it is, or what kind of building it goes to, maybe even like what tier of building it goes to, because we know that we have cosmetics for different tiers of buildings. We know that buildings go through different tiers. So the idea that, oh, I have a tier 2 blacksmithing station cosmetic, but I'm a tailor or a different artisan class all entirely. Like I'm a gatherer or a processor, and I can't use this blacksmithing station because I'm not a blacksmith. And also for the fact that like I've already leveled my freehold to tier 3, so I have tier 3 buildings on my thing, and this is a tier 2 cosmetic, so I still can't use it. I can't use it anymore because it's tier 2.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where they haven't told us what it is, so you don't know what you're buying. So, and I don't think the solution is them making a quick decision on what these things mean and trying to define this stuff, and then trying to fit the game into that mold that they define this early on. I think they need to be able to maintain their flexibility in trying to define these buildings as they develop the professions. I also believe that once we get to the stage where they are now defining how these buildings do fit over crafting stations, they have room to also be flexible there. Possibly, I mean, really, this stuff is to help them design like the components they need for these different like different aesthetics, so they can build buildings with these different aesthetics. So, I would think that would mean it wouldn't be too hard for them to either allow the cosmetic to be put over a building, no matter its tier, or go a little step farther and just allow it to tier up. So
I'd almost say that like that's almost like another kind of I don't want to use the word scummy. It's not the right kind of mindset I want for a store cosmetic either. Like if you don't know, I can make the argument like if you don't know what the cosmetic goes to, or like you're still trying to figure out like how it's applied in your game, should you be selling it?
I say yes, and I don't think it's scummy when like you don't know what you're buying. So if you don't want to take the risk, just don't buy it. It's there for us who want to support the game and are like willing to roll the dice and see what the heck comes out. And like maybe we'll win, maybe we won't, whatever. I don't know. It's like you know that you don't know what it is. Like
I'm of that agreement with a Kickstarter. Like if you're trying to support a game, support a game. Like there's no guarantee it's going to actually become the great game that you hope it is. Like going into Ashes Creation, you don't know 100% that it's going to be a fantastical game. You don't know that it's ever going to come out. It could become a Chronicles of Valyria or one of the other hundreds of Kickstarter MMOs that have been released like they've tried to like done the same thing. But at the same time, I'm like for a product you're selling on your website. That's a different thing. Like I buy these to support the company 100%. People should buy them. People should not go into the Alpha 1 thinking like you're buying a complete game. You're paying them to test the product, kind of thing. With the cosmetics, though, you're putting that out there as a product, like a product. You're selling that. It's almost the same thing for like the Alpha, like Apocalypse. Apocalypse was a testing phase, but you were selling the testing phase as its own thing. You were selling a $10 battle pass kind of thing. Like you were selling it as a product at that point.
It was free. They gave you a battle pass.
You could buy the battle pass.
You cosmetics for the game that's eventually going to release.
And Embers.
Not only did it give you the cosmetics, it eventually gave you enough Embers so that had greater value than the battle pass you bought. I don't think like yes, you can go from the surface level and say like they sold a battle pass, but like if you look into like the contents of it, like I don't think you can really call it scummy. It was like they're trying to like monetize. Sorry, I'll let you talk to you.
Oh no, I just wanted to make sure my mic because it wasn't queuing up on my end, so I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
we can hear you now. What's your opinion? What's your opinion on this line of?
I was loving McStackerson going off, man. I didn't mean to.
Oh no, I think I said I just like you go into what they sold. It was like I felt like it was good value. It was a free game with an optional battle pass.
I mean, like hot take here, but bring back a BR, right? I'd love to fucking play some on the original map.
It would have been nice. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. You're fine. You're fine. When it comes to the I don't think I mean, we know what the BR was for. There were some bad decisions, in my opinion, that were made. But at the end of the day, you know, their company, their game, they can make those bad decisions as they want. It didn't sit well, but we've moved on from there. When it comes to the freehold, I don't. So like, I do think it's. I don't think it's scummy. I just think it's dumb. I think it's dumb that like we don't have this type of. I think it's dumb that we don't have an explanation on this, but I also feel like the reason we don't have the explanation on this is just because they're not there yet in development. And that kind of ties back into the conversation of like, kind of like, what were you guys doing the first 5 years, right? And we know they were working on stuff. We know that things were, art was being developed and stuff like that, right? But like, we're just now having a conversation on like tank mitigation and how we want a tank to be. And like, during the BR, we were told like, hey, this is helping us develop action combat.
So
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So you needed a BR to help you develop action combat that takes you 6 years to create. That most of it was scrapped because it seems like we're just getting a refined version of Alpha 1 combat. So, there are things we don't know, and you start to take the rose tinted glasses off, and you're just kind of like, some stuff is.
Do you think it's okay? So it's like on that train of thought, and we'll go back based on what Stackerson said. Based on what you said, do you think it's okay that like you say like you think we don't have these things because it's the area we are in development? Do you think it's okay for them like if they're not even sure what the fuck these cosmetics do? Do you think it's okay for them to sell the cosmetics?
It's a it's a house skin.
It's we don't know it's a house skin though. For most for a lot
so you're saying like it could be like a guild, like some of these could be guild hall skins.
Not even guild halls are like a different kind of freehold building. I don't think they've even sold a freehold skin. I'm talking like this still goes in your freehold, but it's not a house. This is labeled a warehouse. Like say they sell a blacksmithing station, which they have before. If they sell like a shrine, if they sell a tailoring station, like if it's not a house, if it's a very specific building. That I the same kind of conversation I have with you all the time about like and the same thing that goes on a lot and then currently inside like a lot of other people are having this take as well of it's a blacksmithing station but you can't use it because you're not a blacksmith.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of ignorance on your part, right? Like if you're going to go buy a blacksmith cosmetic and you have no plans, like I want to do forging if that or smelting if that's a thing, but I'm not gonna go buy a smelter, a smelter cosmetic unless I'm sure of it. And if I don't,
a lot of them.
Here's another thing, bro. Like you're supporting the project. Like who cares if you don't use a smelting skin, right? Like is it really the end of the world that you spent $10 on a smelting skin and just like I didn't level this and the company didn't tell me? Like, look, bro, you vote with your wallet. If you don't fucking like it, then don't buy it. That's why I don't buy cosmetics until I've been very firm on that. I will not buy anything off the store until I see actual features come online and in a working state. Other than that, I don't want to buy anything. But like, if I were to buy something, like if I were to spend $20 on this house, it's fucking $20, bro. We pissed
$25
or $25, right? Like we throw that away every month on food, and that's my DoorDash total, right? $25. So like, who cares if I buy a house skin and they're like, oh, you have to have a tier 3 freehold, and the most that I even want for my freehold is tier 2. Oh well, it's just a house skin that I don't use. Like it's just another thing in my inventory. Cool. Like I'm not really gonna lose sleep over $25. So like, if buying a boat skin and it turns out to be a merchant ship skin and you want one for your galleon, if that $20 is making or breaking you, maybe you can't afford to play the MMO, right?
It's not about making or breaking the person. It's about I agree with a lot of what you said as well. Like I've made it's number one, transparency for a product that you're selling to a customer, and like I agree with like the so a lot of what you just said. There's a lot of what you said I agree with, but like at the same time, it's like. It's to be very clear about this, you could simply say like, hey, this is this goes to a blacksmithing state. Blacksmithing state, like instead of freehold building cosmetic skin, you could say freehold blacksmithing buildings. It's an extra word you throw in there. Same thing with like the ships and stuff like that. You classify, hey, this is a galleon skin, or this is a frigate skin. This is a gliding mount. So this is a gliding mount skin. This is a terrain. This is a thing. This is a land mount skin.
I like
Sure.
the way you say frigate.
Frigate. But yeah, it's just about being extremely transparent with the things you're selling to people. And a lot of people don't do their research on the game, so they don't know how the artisan class system works. And there's some of them that it's not as black and white as I'm looking at a blacksmithing station. I can assume that it's a blacksmithing station. There are some of them that you don't even know what the fuck you're buying, like the giant arena stadium that they sold a year or two back. The shrine, the lava shrine, and the tree forest shrine. Some of them aren't as black and white as aesthetically black and white. Not even talking about the description, how we were saying they should put in there. It's the thing that you don't know what you're buying. And argument. And I agree that I agree with subscription fees. And and a lot of people aren't okay with subscription fees. People want to buy your game, buy the game. Some people just want to buy it once and be done with it. Some people want the game to be free and stuff like that. A subscription fee is what you said. $25 is not a whole hell of a lot. $15 a month is not a whole hell of a lot. That's something you would use to go pay for a movie ticket to the movie theaters kind of thing. That's your hobby money. That's your me money. I call it me money. That's the stuff that you do for your mental health and to find enjoyment in life outside of work and just the everyday stuff. So being able spending that stuff on what you find enjoyment in is something you should do. You should set aside, be able to do that. And $15 is not like we said, $20, $30, not a whole hell of a lot in comparison to other hobbies or me money kind of things. I agree with you on that stuff. It's just being extremely clear on what you're selling to people.
Yeah. I think we're going in circles at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Talking about the tank, because we're done with overall, I think we've already kind of said this. Overall, what do you think about the cosmetics? You like them? All right. McStackerson likes them. Yeah, I think you've already said you like them. I like them as well. I think we've already said that they're one of the best that have been out in a while. I did enjoy a lot from last pack, but this one's also a really good one as well. Previous packs before that, falling a little bit lacking. Going to the tank discussion. They're having an office hours on the 18th in 3 days. That's on a Wednesday. Everyone's free to come join in that. They do it in a stage mode. Roshan and Vaknar host it. Z and the other moderators help out. They drag 5 people in there. The 5 people give their opinions on very specific topics, and then they move on to the next 5 people. They get 5 or some odd minutes to give their opinions on things. If you can't make that, or even if you do go to that, I fully say that you should go to the forums and give your opinion on things. That being said, this topic is tank and what we think about it. It's very specifically tanking threat mitigation. The dev discussion says the very topic on the discussion for people who prefer to play the tanking role. Do you enjoy holding threat as a prevalent part of combat? Would you prefer threat mechanics to be part of a combat initiation or thought out the entire dungeon or combat? And then going into more detail, they give us 5 questions for the office hours. Going off of the tanking dev discussion, what do you guys think about that? Tank mitigation.
Personally, I like it. I like it throughout the entire duration of combat. I like that push and pull from DPS, knowing hey, the tank needs to let the tank get hate. Let him it's not just, oh, the tank got the initial hate from pull, now just, DPS it down. One of the reasons I quit playing tank in Final Fantasy 14 is just because like it was very much you get hate on Paladin, and then you just do your rotation. You just, you know, your face rolling buttons at that point. And I think 11 did a little bit better when you have to, where, you know, that hate was just like something that ramped up. You had to make sure that you're covering healers, and then like actually Jalon spoke on this, but like uh it also made you think about who you were bringing in your party. So if you had a mage that was high damage, in that party, you would essentially know to put like a thief in that party, because that thief would do a what's called a SATA, which is sneak attack, trick attack, and they would sneak attack the mage, which is they would basically like kind of like how AOC plans to combo their moves. They would use a combo move on like the mage that would steal the hate from them temporarily, and if they didn't use trick attack, it would just disperse. So they were able to like pull hate from other people. But if the tank needed more hate, they could use trick attack, which is the other type of the combo, which they would do a weapon combo with the tank. And I think the tank had to be standing in front of you, and like so it was a positional thing. If you stood behind the tank, it would transfer over the hate to who you were standing in front of. So that was a huge thing for like big boss fights, when it comes to positioning, when it comes to threat management and things like that. And I think that was a really interesting way of doing it versus just initial aggro pull. Make sure you spam provoke off cooldown and send it DPS, or just DPS the boss.
Now, just to clarify, with threat mitigation, it goes by a bunch of different labels and stuff like that, like aggro, threat mitigation, and like different games do go about it in different kind of ways. It also has different kind in the past with like more PvE style MMOs. That's the tank's role, right? They're there to keep aggro threat mitigation for the entire party, or like I maintain threat management on a boss or on enemies, like to take in a lot of the the damage for the party. That's like the that's the role of the tank. That's almost like the class. I don't want to say class fantasy of the tank, but it almost ties into the class fantasy of the tank, like someone that's on the front line taking the blow. Like you see like a dragon's breathing fire, and the tank's holding up his shield, and the fire is like just blowing, like bouncing off the shield as the tank just like is just standing there holding the defensive line, for his party. That plays a different role in that role is almost, I don't want to say changed, but like it doesn't threat mitigation and threat and aggro aren't a thing in PvP, so you have to almost create a new system for PvP for a tank.
I think that's something that games have just kind of dropped the ball on. One of the things that I remember just from other games in the past, that like it was a thing in Korean, so some of your Korean MMOs, it was a thing, right? Like the tank, like does the howl at you, and if you turn away, they have things like if you don't fight him, you get like 90% slowed. If you don't, there's other games that do it, that if I like howl you or provoke you and you go attack the healer, you do like no damage to the healer. So I like games that like utilizes those that turn, because like obviously a lot of games do that. An ability works just differently in PvP, right? It's not necessarily a different stat, it just works a little bit differently, and I think that's how it should work, is for it's like when it comes to having those hate bars, it shouldn't just be like, oh, I never use provoke because I'm in PvP, so I have no use for it. No, provoke should be like, it should, you should make the players have to focus on you, and if they don't, there should be some type of detriment.
Action.
I agree with DA. I mean, I guess my big thing is making sure you get tank builds for PvE and PvP aren't that different. I don't like abilities that are like only for PvE for tanks. So the closer they can bring the tank's role in both styles of combat or styles of gameplay, the better to me. I guess like to the original question of like the threat mechanics, I feel like the entire duration of having to think about it throughout the entire duration of the fight is better. But when I've tanked, I haven't tanked in a game where it was like that, and most of those games tanking just feels like DPS where you have control over the boss's position.
You're basically like you said, you're like, and then when talking about Asher creation, when talking about Asher creation, we like, because it's a PvP and PvE game, it's PvX game. You have the two elements. It's we're not talking about a standard theme park PvE game where how you like raids are closed off on stuff like that. Or it has open world, like this has open world PvP. There's raid bosses, stuff like that. Like you have to look at this in the perspective of, does my of almost a two identity kind of thing of like PvE and PvP. How does the skill work in both factors kind of thing. And like you said, like I think DA said, and like how you said, Stackerson, is like the not making a separate skill, but you almost are making a separate skill, right? Because the skill functions differently in both situations, right? It's an aggro mechanic inside PvE combat, but in PvP combat, to what DA was saying, it's like it's almost providing like a debuff on somebody. It's providing a provoke or an aggro debuff of, you have to focus the tank, or else you're gonna take some kind of penalty for attacking other people because you have this, because the tank did this ability on somebody else. So like going forward into the rest of the things, I think it's good to keep this in mind for the 5 topics. Were you trying to make a point? It's like,
oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. I guess one thing, like I kind of, which I feel like is in line with what DA say with provoke, is like ideally the provoke, even if it functions a little different in PvE with that debuff, it is serving the same purpose. Like you use it in the same way, where you're using it to draw someone away from your party. It's not a hard CC, and doesn't work as strong as it does in PvE, but in PvP it serves that same role where you see something going after your friend and you use provoke on it to try to get it to not go by your friend, go towards your friend. So I guess that's what I was trying to say.
100%. So the first question, and I think we've already kind of like touched on this too. What would you like? So like, let's talk aggro. Is the first question. What do you like and what do you not like about managing aggro / threat in games you've played?
Realistically, it's been so long that since I've played tank, and I mean, I don't really have too much of an opinion on this one. It's aggro, right? You know, I play the game, I look at the way that they do, hate holding, and then I send it. I don't really have a preference when it comes to it.
Yeah, I guess in a lot of games it's not right now. You don't really do anything. You press your buttons and your class is already designed so that it's holding aggro. And you have maybe like a few oh shit buttons. But I guess I'm saying aggro is boring. And I don't really like that it's a mechanic that's only for PvE. I don't really like aggro. I'm going to say that. I don't really like aggro. I don't know if there's a good solution, another solution or anything. Not saying there is. I'm just saying I don't like it.
So like aggro in a PvP, in a PvE setting. Like I said, we should look at these these questions in both a PvP and PvE light. Like aggro managing aggro, you could say, and this is talking about very specifically other games, which I think you're both right. I don't think there's a good example. I don't think like it's done in particularly good way in any kind of game. Like it's been like the game trying to do different things, but it's been done almost it almost amounts to the same thing in other games. But looking at it,
they've made it so easy.
Yeah. Some games,
yeah.
some games it has it to where like it's almost a bar kind of thing, where like you, as a tank, you have to manage the aggro, and if like the DPS are doing too much damage, they take aggro on themselves, and so like the DPS almost have to do like they almost have to check themselves into doing less damage, or you have to do more aggro mechanics as a tank. Like you have to. There's a line there that like generally if it's crossed, everyone's yelling at the tank for not holding aggro or something like that, and then the tank like by himself is trying to yell at everybody like saying like, hey, you didn't you're the ones that fucking we're pulling way more aggro than I could manage, kind of thing. That's how it's generally done in PvE settings. PvP setting, like if we're looking at the PvP, like we were talking about earlier, having it to where like it's almost like a debuff kind of thing, like a debuff, not like a CC, but like a debuff. Like, hey, if you have aggro on, if you have this, like I've applied the same ability that I did in PvE, but in a PvP setting, it's now become a debuff for on somebody that if they attack somebody that's not me or not the tank, then they do less damage, they could take damage, they could apply almost no damage.
I mean, I think for high aggro abilities, I mean, I don't quite know, but I would want to think that like a lot of the tank is going to have a lot of CC abilities, and that the CCs are mostly for like PvP. But in a PvE setting, he'll use those same like CC abilities, and they'll just also cause high aggro. They won't necessarily CC the boss. The boss might be CC immune, or maybe there's some combo you can do with it. But I guess that's how I'd think it would work. It wouldn't always be that provoke example, if that makes sense. Like you might have a stunning smash, which normally you use that to CC someone in PvP, but in PvE that's your big aggro hit, or a big aggro ability.
I could see that. Generally, like aggro though, like I don't know if you associate aggro with also like a CC,
And it won't necessarily always be hard CC too, because
yeah, soft CC, but like
well, also this combo system where it's like you use this and it's a high aggro ability for the tank. It doesn't necessarily do a hard CC, but it lines up so your DPS could do a hard CC on someone in PvP.
True. And there are different kinds of like levels of aggro ones, but like, generally when I'm thinking of this, if specifically, I'm thinking like what you would use against a boss, like a raid boss kind of thing. And generally, like raid bosses, I don't think you're like applying a whole bunch. You're applying debuffs on them, but you're not like stunning them and stuff like that. There's like interruptions and things like break bars and things for bosses, but you're not like applying a bunch of stuns to them. Tanks managing threat. Do you enjoy holding threat as a prevalent part of combat? Would you prefer threat mechanics to be part of combat initiation, or something that manages throughout the entire duration of combat? I think we've already touched on this. I think it's the exact same kind of thing as the threat mitigation topic itself. It's not like a I'm going in like a lot of your skills are tied around. Like I generally like if a skill says aggro, it says aggro. If it says like it applies like a break, it says break. If it applies some kind of thing, it says it. And monitor tank skills are applied in a lot of games are tied around managing aggro or threat or provoking or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And that's kind of a thing you want done throughout the entire fight. You don't want it just like as an opening thing, because if it's just an opening thing, what is your role? What are you doing throughout the rest of the fight? Because like a tank can't be super tanky and then also do a fuck ton of damage as well. Or yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we already covered that one.
Yeah. Damage dealers managing threat. What do you like and what do you like and dislike about DPS players managing threat in groups of or raid situations?
I mean, I guess the dislike is probably going to be with that people will complain about with pugs, where it's like you get a rando and he's not doing things right. It's causing you problems. But I guess I like the idea of damage dealers having to worry about their threat. I guess I'm also thinking that could be a thing to kind of affect the meta and make it so the meta isn't necessarily about having the highest DPS, because if you just have there's more to your class's kit than just being able to pump numbers, since if you just pump the highest numbers, you're going to be pulling threat. But I don't know how well that plays out in practice.
I think so. Like in a raid situation, I think a lot of like the more enjoyable ones are more mechanic heavy. I think that's why people enjoy them. So like, tanks need to pull threats so that the boss isn't doing a fuck ton of damage to the rest of your party and killing the rest of your party. That's kind of the role of a tank in like a raid situation. Same thing in like a PvP situation. Like you're applying this aggro, you're applying this threat to people, so they if it was like I apply like in a PvP situation, DPS applying threat, like managing threat. We've already talked about like this in a PvP situation a little bit. And I'll touch on that again for that example. But like, if say this debuff that we've talked about, this aggro or threat debuff that the tank is applied on people, say it has like a damage cap kind of thing, and so like if damage dealers are like if the enemy takes so much damage, it gets rid of the debuff kind of thing, and so like you like you said, like almost like a DPS check kind of thing of like, hey, like you're, and same thing as a PvP situation, a PvE situation of you're having to manage this bar of, hey, the tank has this much aggro on them, and then the damage dealers are doing too much damage to the boss, and so the bar is more on them, so like the tank can't do his role, and the entire party's getting wiped because the damage dealers did too much damage to the boss. That's kind of what this is suggesting almost. DA, you haven't talked in a while. What's your take on this stuff?
I mean, me personally, so when it comes to like managing threat as a DPS, I think that unless you have like kind of what we talked about, that specific, like you have that class that his job is to help mitigate and move threat around. I think there's already a lot of stuff that DPS have to focus on, and realistically, like, so it's more like this, right? Like, I don't think I should just be able to DPS the boss before the tank go pulls or before like he does his thing, but there has to be like DPS has to just be able to DPS, and they should be focused on things like positionals and timings and like different things like blocking and mechanics and stuff like that. I don't think that sitting there and making like I hate games where it's like, okay, DPS, you just got to completely slow your DPS down because I'm basically being hindered for performing well. I hate when games hinder me for or punish me for doing well on damage.
Yeah, and that's almost what the idea of threat idea damage dealers managing threat is. A lot of the role, like the things that you said the DPS has to worry about, I think that's like everybody in the party has to worry about. Like everyone has to worry about the mechanics of the bot, what the boss is doing, like positionals. Like, is there a dot? Is there a circle I need to be standing in, or there's a circle I'm not supposed to be standing in at the moment? What's the boss doing? Kind of thing. I think the damage dealer, like you said, the damage dealer like should just have to. They're the damage dealer. They're focused on dealing damage to the boss. If you have this boss to where like I have to like the damage dealer is getting punished for doing well, then it doesn't feel well. But at the same time, if the tank isn't doing like the tank applies like aggro skills to the boss, and he's just sitting there taking damage at that point, like it's kind of boring for him too. The idea of I have to watch how much threat the damage dealers are taking in and apply things like that. I think that's why that mechanic is there, more so to make a raid or combat more engaging for everybody involved. Like, yeah, damage dealers have to watch what they're doing, how much damage they're doing, and tanks have to watch how much aggro they're taking in. If they've blown their load on aggro skills and they don't have it and everything's on cooldown and the damage dealers are doing too much damage and like pulling in too much aggro, the boss is going to focus more on the damage dealers and wipe the entire party at that point. He's going to lose focus on the tank, which is supposed to be doing like either they're tanky for that very reason of like taking the damage and stuff like that. And then like the rest of combat should be around like not only like I'm the tank, I'm taking I'm pulling aggro and taking damage. I'm a damage dealer. I'm focusing on doing damage. You should also be focusing on the majority of how you win a fight with a boss should be around the boss's mechanics and other things you're doing. Like yes, you should DPS it down, but so it gets to different phases, or you can kill it eventually. Or apply a damage so it does a break bar kind of thing, and so you can interrupt the ball or like interrupt it from doing a very large skill that it's trying to do, or like a party wiping thing. There are other things you can do better than a managing aggro thing, both in a PvP setting and a PvE setting. Healer/support managing threat. What do you dislike about healers and support players managing threat in group raid situations? I can't think of a game where maybe like I'm a healer and I'm applying heals to my party, and the more heals that I do, the game is reading that and saying like, hey, because you're applying heal, like you're almost punishing healers and supports for doing their job at that point. Same thing with like damage dealers, punishing them for doing their job. It's you're doing too much healing, and so now the boss is focusing on you. That thing you've gotten aggro on yourself. That's the only situation I could think of where like a healer or support would be pulling aggro.
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about. I mean, I think we're getting into like this. There's almost this push-pull between like tanks, the tank job, and DPS and healers having to worry about threat. It's like if the tank's job is easy, then the DPS and healers don't have to worry about threat. If the more challenging you make tanking, the more you make tanks have to worry about aggro, the more you're also then making it so damage dealers and healers have to worry about it. I guess you're making it so the whole party has to worry about aggro if you're making people have to worry about aggro, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's kind of where we landed on. Like if you apply the threat managing or aggro mechanic into a game, and a lot of the games that have done it, it's there. It's almost there, like you said, to make the tank role more interesting, or make the entire raid more interesting. But at the same time, like DA said, it almost feels like you're punishing everybody involved, like both the DPS and the healers, for doing their job.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I don't know. That's getting tricky. Because, I mean, I guess I would almost say, like, because there's something to say, like, being able to do your rotation, right, and consistently. But I guess I don't know how actually, like, it's not that engaging though, or at least a lot of rotations. And having to worry about the boss's reaction to what you're doing. That I guess that's just like another factor or thing you could make people worry about, and it's just like, do you want to make people care about that and be like consistent across all classes, or do you control what people care about based off class? The class specific mechanics. Yeah,
It's a very
that's kind of funny because I feel like I realize it. I feel like an idiot now, but yeah, they could, because I feel like if you're gonna make the tank, if the tank has to worry about holding aggro throughout the entire duration of the fight, if we're gonna say that we want that, then you have to say that. I feel like you also have to say that the damage dealers and healers have to do the same. I feel like those are like mutually inclusive things.
yeah. Well, that's how most games kind of do it, right? Because like if like we said, if you're doing your job, like if damage dealers are doing their job or if healers are doing their job, and like what these two questions are kind of also asking is like they're pulling the aggro that the tank is supposed to be having. Like that's the entire like that little bar thing, that tug of war kind of bar thing that we talked about. Like they're pulling it more towards themselves, and the tank has to manage that. Like how do you make a tank more interesting in a PvE situation without this
hurting everyone else,
without hurting everybody else? Yeah,
and you can't, because the whole idea is the tank, like the whole punishment for the tank, the whole thing that makes the tanking interesting is holding the aggro.
DA,
it's a fun conundrum.
You want to be? What's your opinion on this conundrum that we're in?
Honestly, I think that's something that Intrepid really has to work out, and whatever they give me, I'm gonna play it, man. I mean, like, I'm not really a tank. I don't want to see, as a DPS, I don't want to really see myself be, like I said, punished for that. But when it comes to healers, I mean, you have, like, the overhealing is a thing, making sure I've seen games where healers do have to manage their threat, and from those games, it always seemed more of a hindrance than just like a meaningful mechanic. So
it's a hindrance on both parts, right? But like, there's other ways you can do. Like I said, this doesn't help. This doesn't help tanks in any kind of way, but like it does help the damage dealers and healers. Like there are other ways you can make those classes more interesting than I'm just doing. Not like overhealing is the thing, like you said, and but like how you mitigate that is like you give the healers a resource, like the word, like you make mana or prayer or whatever kind of resource you want to give healers or supports like actually meaningful. A lot of games like a lot of games lately have made it to where like those resources have lost their meaning. Yeah, they have them, but they almost have like no point to them. You almost like never run out of them. Same thing for like damage dealing can be more than just I'm dealing damage to the boss. I'm doing the break bar thing. I'm focusing on doing the mechanics of the raid type thing. For tank, their identity is almost like tied to this idea of aggro. Which is almost why I think that like a lot of games are looking to get rid of the tank, the Holy Trinity.
Because it's all, I guess, I think, and then DA kind of said it. It's like, instead of making people care about like aggro and crap like that, you make the people, you're having people react to the mechanics of the fight, and you can tailor those mechanics based off the fight, and you have like more control over that instead of having this generic aggro thing. I don't know.
Unique.
I haven't actually thought about this that much before.
Well, it's topic now, and now and now we got the office hours coming up, so get to thinking about it.
Yeah.
Unique threat mechanics. How this is the last question, then we're done. How do you feel when raid bosses and other significant NPCs have unique threat mechanics? Are there specific ones you enjoy or strongly dislike from other games?
So, based off what we just said, I feel like this is this is where they need to go. I can't even think. I mean, I'm sure there's like, there's like things like, the only thing that comes back to me is Kara, is it Big Bad Wolf or whatever? Like mechanics where it's like the boss decides to chase like one person and it's like run away or something like that. I assume that's kind of what we're talking about. You could do this with all sorts of things where the boss decides like you target certain things, you have to tailor your combat.
I enjoy it. One of the best things about playing a tank in 14, when it comes to specific fights that have specific tanking mechanics, bro. When Susano brings that giant fucking great sword on your head, and you gotta fucking block it and hit the button, and the fucking paladin wings come out, and everybody's trying to stand behind you, and you that shit feels so fucking good, bro. You feel like a fucking god. Like that's the type of shit I want to see, bro. Like
what you just explained is like that whole class fantasy thing that I talked about earlier, right? Like the giant boss brings down the giant fucking greatsword, or the dragon breathes out his fire, and you're there with your fucking shield up, and it's like a giant epic scene of the tank doing their job.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to lean into the class fantasy, right? Like there were times where like the tank died at the last 10 seconds of the mechanic, and like I came around as a samurai, and I think there was one time I was playing samurai, and the tank had died, and while they were rezzing him, they were just throwing every bubble and defensive buff on me and spam healing me, and like I'm a damage dealer and I'm holding my samurai sword up, and that was the coolest shit ever. So like I don't think it necessarily has to be class fantasy. I just think like it just has to be.
That seems almost class fantasy. Yeah. Well, okay, but no. Go on. Sorry.
It's more so. No, you're good. You're good. It's just more so of like having a mechanic that says like, hey, the tank is important for this part, and it's more so. It's more than just go grab an ad. It's more than just go stand in the corner with this other, the boss's twin, because we both have to damage or kill them at within a window of like 20 seconds, or they're in range or something like that. It really gives tanks a way to shine outside of just like, because like you think about PvE, right? Like there are ways for DPS to stand out, there are ways for healers to stand out, but like the tank, as long as you're doing your job, holding hate, and doing sufficient damage for your tanking class, it's really all there is to it. So like I would like to see, and another thing is just like I like giving mechanics that isn't just like pressure the DPS, right? I really, that's another thing that I just really found that I've liked with some different raids and different games, is you have these systems that it's just like you ever play a game as a melee DPS and you feel like every fucking mechanic in the raid is just targeting you, and you're like, and you got that mage or ranger in the back who's like, I haven't been hit by a single thing, I just sit back here and shoot, and fucking like that shit is so ass, bro. And like I just want raids to I want to see that hold more mechanics for more than just like the DPS. The tanks do something. A healer might have to throw a bubble on and stand there and stand in a thing and like charge their healing bubble or something. I don't know. I'm not a raid designer.
It's that whole like for this example, like for the thing that like you guys were talking about earlier. It's that whole like, so in Lost Ark, you have it to where like you have monsters that like they'll do big moves. Like they don't have a tank class, but like they have monsters that like the boss will be doing a gigantic move, and it's a party wipe move. And if you don't break its break bar within a certain amount of time, then the entire party wipes and stuff like that. It's the exact same thing. Like the idea for this is like you're having if you're wanting to succeed in this thing, like DPS do a break bar thing, or like the boss is doing this gigantic move, and you have to apply as much aggro as possible to the boss before the move goes off, kind of thing, or something similar to that. And then also like other games do, where like monsters have different kinds of threat mechanics to them too. Like Monster Hunter, the monsters are smart. The monster AI is smart to where like they will go after people that are trying to use healing things, that they like people that are trying to pull themselves away from the fight, people that are low, like the lowest health and stuff like that. The monster AI is intelligent. It's not like really the mechanics of the fights going on that they're focusing on. Like the fights have mechanics to them, but the AI is also so smart that it can tell like who is in what kind of position to take the most damage. Who can I fuck up right now? Kind of thing. And I had another game example, but I did I lost.
I think what
it.
we learned from this is they just need to go full action combat because screw this tab aggro crap because screw threat, just go action.
I think that's kind of where like I almost think you're right, Stackerson, to where like that's the direction that we're kind of going with this idea is that like I yes,
I was
aggro's
also I was being a dick.
well, yeah, you're almost right though, because like that's what we kind of landed on is like as games progress, they are going towards more like a more open world, kind of larger, kind of like setting kind of thing, and like more people were wanting more action type things. Aggro is almost a very tabbed thing, and as we aggro's boring. You almost want to get right. I like how games have been trying to do for years now. There, like it's almost the idea of getting rid of the Holy Trinity, and also like moving away from tab and more towards action combat.
Yeah, but it also, I mean, it comes with like the redefining of almost the tank role because the tank has always been kind of about threat, but then like threat's kind of been removed, kind of as we said. It feels like threat's been removed as a thing. It's just something that tanks hold by pressing their buttons properly.
But in a game to where like threat has been removed from the game, does a tank
action basically?
Well, not even that. In a game where threat and aggro has been removed, is number one, is the tank role enjoyable to play? Number two, does the tank role hold any kind of significance in a fight?
I think. Okay, so I don't. I mean, you could probably make the tank a similar role where they like are locking down whatever you're fighting. Not necessarily with aggro, but with like other things. But you could also make the tank maybe more of a defender kind of thing, where they are still like positioning themselves between the boss and the friends, and either stop blocking attacks or I don't know.
I think what you're talking about is like the idea of like almost an action combat. You can do it in tab as well, of an area control tank. So you're applying bubbles, like you're applying like AOE bubbles around you. That like you're standing there with a shield and like around like behind you, almost like a cone or a bubble. If you will stand there, they're not taking damage. You're applying walls that the boss can't do, or like you're applying like roots and stuff like that that monsters can't. Like area control tank in a PvE setting, and not just not PvP, but like there's also the idea of like two separate tanks at that point. If you're gonna get rid of aggro, you have to go down two separate tank roles, which is the same kind of tank role we talked about for PvP. You have the area control tank and you have the support tank, who are like now like a Lost Ark kind of situation where I'm no longer applying aggro, I'm applying shield and armor buffs to my team.
Yeah. And I mean that's like where the tank is moving the tank to more of a support kind of. I guess I feel like the tank is supposed to be physical. I feel like if you're just doing shields and buffs, you're basically like kind of like a priest support.
100%.
And like I think the fantasy of the tank is usually in the monster's face. So it's either just like a freaking tanky DPS that is like a Lancer in Lost Ark, where like they're not necessarily the highest damage thing, but they're not going to die or go down, and they're going to be there at the end.
But their purpose of bringing them into a fight is so they can apply shield. They are almost a support role kind of thing. Where like their purpose of bringing them into a fight is to apply like their armor shield to the party, kind of like they are that kind of support role.
Fight, but yeah, they have that.
But you're very right. I think the class fantasy is like I'm a frontline fighter. I'm in your face. Like turning the tank into a support eliminates that class fantasy, and I think at that point you're also getting rid of the Holy Trinity.
I mean, I think you could still incorporate like the support aspect in it, but I think you need to make sure like the core of the tank is still like in the front of the boss. How you do that, I have no clue. That's not my job.
Any kind of final thoughts, gentlemen?
I don't have any. Good
Nope,
talk. That's fun.
that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thank everyone for showing up today. We went a little bit over what we were doing, but we were also kind of a little bit late. We went way over what we were doing, though. But we had a lot of interesting topics to talk about today. Mainly the two being the fucking cosmetics and the tank thing. That was not, it wasn't a lot, but thanks everyone for showing up. We will be back again next week. I missed last week, but I promise we're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. So thank everyone for showing up. Bye.
See ya.
Later, gamers.